So what inspired my design was this idea of the Indigenous garden. Um, what does that look like to me as someone who is Anishinaabe and Haudenosaunee from Six Nations of the Grand River Reserve? So when I think of the garden, I think of our plants and our medicines. So then I wanted to incorporate that into this design. Yeah, and then with the bee, I want to incorporate the florals around it, as the bee is like interconnected with nature. We're all interconnected with nature. I want to keep the hives kind of represent like the hive that the bee is, the queen bee in the hive, and then the strawberry. So the strawberry, for people of Six Nations, represents the sweetness of life. Being Anishinaabe and Haudenosaunee, I wanted to try to incorporate that and combine that into this style in a way. So for my Haudenosaunee side, I wanted to incorporate this idea of the two-row wampum into the bee. And I think that visually it worked well because there's already the lines in the bee already. So I thought making that white and purple can signify the two-row wampum belt, which is representation of the people coexisting during the period of the colonial period when settlers were coming to Canada, and this coexistence that needed to happen with the Indigenous people. And they created this treaty to show that the two lines are representative of a ship and a canoe going down a path, and that they're not intertwining, but they're coexisting in harmony and peace, and it moves on forever. So, yeah, and then the other elements around it are kind of pay homage to this woodland style art, the medicines and florals, and then on the sides, there's this design of this it's called sky domes. So for people of Six Nations, our creation story is very involved with this idea of Sky World, and Sky Woman fell from Sky World onto the turtle's back, and as she danced, she created what's known as Turtle Islands. This is the continent that we live on now. So when you think of a library, there's a lot of knowledge that's held here, and a lot of stories that are told, and these stories come from people all over the world, of all walks of life, of all backgrounds, communities, cultures, and having that Indigenous representation here is important, especially in a space like this, in this territory, because it shows that Indigenous people occupied these lands long before, but we're still here in a contemporary time, showing contemporary works of art in a way that shows that we're still thriving, moving forward. I hope they feel a sense of interconnectedness and the sense of community. I hope that this acts as a sort of safe space for people of all backgrounds, of all walks of life, to kind of come together and learn the stories of Indigenous people or people of all different nations and backgrounds, and I don't know, to have the sense of community, but kind of give this visual look into the beauty of Indigenous culture and the color that comes with that. To document everything that you have, to not be scared to showcase your work to people, and I think that not having that imposter syndrome, believing that your work is good, and building a website for me was really important. Creating a social media page for that, like building an Instagram where you're just posting all of the stuff, almost like a journal or a diary of just your art in general, I think is important. And then you slowly become better, and you kind of build a craft in your own style in that way, and people will like that. So yeah, I think that's my advice.